Dudes and dudettes, what's going on? How is everybody? Got the coffee going? Barry says hello from Richmond. Sup says un-effing believable. Oh, man. What is happening? All right. I'm still waking up. Got some coffee here. A little iced oat milk situation. Hopefully it's going to kick in soon. I know it's late. Why aren't I awake yet? What happened this week? I put out the video for that amp. A little Jake amp. I put out a video for an Origin pedal as well, which was their version of a Klon-style drive. Really cool. And I did a bunch of other stuff too. What else have I got going on? So I had something so cool happen this week, and I can't tell you what it is. But it was awesome. I got to play on this track that if it happens, if it actually gets released, it's so cool. It's a long story, so I don't even want to get into it, but it was so exciting, and I was so stoked to be doing it. And it's for a freaking legend. So it was the coolest thing, and I put so much into it. Because I was so stoked to be doing it. So I was just like jazzed the whole time, and like it's sometimes like in this business, it strikes me that like you work so hard, but you're doing what you love, so it doesn't like I don't know. It's a neat combination of when you do something you love, and then you're just pushing yourself to the limit, but you're so stoked to be doing it. Like it's not like you're pushing yourself to the limit doing something that you dread or any of that. It's just like so much fun. So anyways, I hope it happens. I don't want to say any more than that about it, but it was so much fun. So we shall see. Is it normal for modulation lights to remain on when your magnetic delay pedal is off? I don't know what that means. Your magnetic delay, is that like a Benson? Which pedal are you talking about? Are you talking about is there a pedal called the magnetic delay, or are we talking about like a Volante or one of the other? I'm just not sure. I don't know. I have many original tubes in my 2203 1980. They are dusty. Hey man, if they work, don't take them out. It's always good to I think go to a tech and somebody's got a tube tester and see how close they are. Like bias this thing and see what the tubes are reading. If one's way low or one's way high compared to another, it's probably time to change. But hey, if they're working and it sounds good and they're matched like reasonably close, like at least within say 5-6 milliamps, just rock it. Don't change them. Yep. Ben Tom says the one time I made it here in Pizza Night here. Yeah. Sorry, it took me a few minutes to get started here. Just sometimes the way. That's just how it goes. There's a couple super chats there, so let's head down and grab those. Here's one from Derek, and then I'll grab the one that was just before his. In a mono setup, what's the benefit of running 4-cable method with the EVH SDE versus simply putting it in the loop with 2 cables and guitar and amp input? Sorry? Gotta read that again. In a mono setup, what's the benefit of running 4-cable? Well, it'd be, I guess, 3-cable method. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, so the benefit is you get to use the loop on the EVH SDE, which has this great noise gate in it. So if you use any kind of gain, you might appreciate it. Give it a try. I originally was like, I don't know. Why don't I just put it in the loop? And you can totally do that. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be using mine in a parallel setup. And I'm not going to use the gate in the front end because of the way that I'm wiring it and stuff. But the gate is cool. It's if you utilize the pedal to do the wet, dry, wet, like they kind of engineered it to do, and you utilize the gain in the front end, you can hear it in my video how silent it is. And I mean, so if you use a lot of gain, it really cleans up the sound and just makes it tight. And it's not like a normal, it's one of the best sounding noise suppression things I've ever tried, because it's almost completely invisible. Like you don't really feel it. Like I tried a decimator recently, and that thing has way more effect on the sound than whatever Boss is doing with the way it's keying off the guitar and the way that it works. It sounds amazing. Like, so the advantage is mainly the noise suppression circuit, and that has nothing to do with delay, right? But they incorporated it and into a pedal meant for high gain and stuff. It actually, I like I say, originally I was like, I don't know what's this, and then I tried it and I was like, oh, this is actually awesome. Like it took trying it to. So just plug it in with your amp. If you use a lot of, any kind of preamp hiss or anything like that in the front end, it just takes care of that completely and makes it sound like you're on the clean channel or something with no gain. And then you play and it's just this massive, distorted guitar sound. And it's just really neat. But NS says, I just got mine 2 days ago and I'm blown away. I love it. Yeah, I'm putting mine on my board right now. As a matter of fact, like either tomorrow or the next day, my board will probably be done. And I guess I'll have to do a little video on it. But yeah, I'm doing the H90 and the EVH in parallel in a Musicom Lab mixer. And I'm not gonna do the wet, dry, wet thing. I'm gonna do a stereo rig. But it's still gonna be very cool the way I'm doing it. Stereo in parallel with the delay and the EVH delay and the I could do the full Eddie Van Halen, like basically 84 style rig, I guess. Stereo rig, or at least it would sound very similar. Yeah, so more on that soon, but I'm gonna dive into kind of programming next week and stuff. And I've never done a parallel rig, so I'm excited to do it, to try not running anything in series in the loop. And I've had great success so far running. I mean, I've had 3 things in my effect loop for many years. Like I've got a delay, usually the timeline. For a little while I had Boss TD 500, and then 2 H9s. So that was my rig for a number of years, running everything all in series in the effects loop. Sometimes running one of the H9s in true bypass, so I wouldn't get any kind of like delay or anything when it wasn't on, or any kind of, because there's just a little bit of latency or whatever with, not latency, but a millisecond or two, that even when the pedals are in bypass, they're creating that. So I never noticed it or thought it was a big deal. It never bothered me, but I am excited to try the whole, like, I'm just going to have that parallel path all the way through in this new rig and see how it feels and sounds and the punch and all that stuff. So just thought I'd finally go for it. The way that I'm doing it is I'm running the front half of the H9 as the first thing after my effects loop send. So effects send out of the amp, come back in my board. It'll go into the first processor on the H90, excuse me. First processor on the H90 in mono, and then it'll come out of that and then go into the parallel mixer. There'll be a volume pedal in there too, first, right before the first processor in the H90, so that I can, on the send, so I can do swells and stuff. But anyway, first processor in the H90 in series, and I come out of that and go into the mixer, and then I'll have my parallel path running through on the mixer dry path, and then the SDE 3000 and the back half in stereo of the H90. And if I run the H90 in true bypass, when it's off, I don't have any kind of delay at all happening from that. So, yeah, should be really cool. Should be really cool. Because I'm not going to use it all the time. Let's use it for some. Mainly I use the H90 like reverbs, rotary, sometimes in stereo. What else do I use it for? I use it for some delays because I really like the delays in it. So even though I'll have the SD 3000, I'll probably use it for other type of, if I need to do a tape delay or I need to do something analog sounding, I can do that always in there if I want a different delay. So, and then pitch and stuff. Okay. Yeah. What else we got? Let's see. I got picked up for a major gig too. I can't say anything until it happens. I'm going nuts. That's awesome. What is it? Tell us. Come on. No, I know I couldn't tell you, but that's rad. Terrific. Congrats. We want to know. Well, come back here and tell us when you can. How about that? Let us know. Music Life with Arthur. Tell us what's going on when you're able. So tempted to order one of those JEL amps. It is really cool. It did sound really good. You know, some nice videos that came out. Michael Nielsen's videos were really good this week on it. Who else did a nice video? I'm spacing. Somebody besides Michael. He always does good sounding videos, though. There's Jeff saying, get Lukather or Neil on the show. Yeah, I would love that. One of these days. Okay. Let's see. Why did you not demo the orange OR30 that came out a few weeks back? They've never asked me to. That's the reason. Sometimes Orange hits me up to do things. Occasionally. I've done some of the small, like the little pedal amp and stuff. I've only actually recently started doing amps, for video demos. So I think probably there's a lot of companies that don't realize that I do it yet. But I do have there's plenty on the deck to do. There's a Driftwood amp that you can see right above my PT100 back there on the rack. I need to finish a video for that. It's very cool. Did one for this JJ. I've got more to do. And there's only so many of these things that I can make. I feel like I'm backed up right now in videos until at least November because I got to go on the road in October. So I don't know how many more I can take on right now, to be honest. But yeah, I can't, I just kind of put the word out that I'm doing some. And when I did that, it's like a lot showed up to do. So like this Jake one and... So anyways, the Jake amp is hot on the interwebs this week. It is, yeah. It's interesting. He's a happening guy that still a lot of people, have great respect for and remember fondly, I guess, I mean, it was interesting because I always remember him being fairly straight up Marshall guy, using 800s and stuff, but he had great tone. And he just had good tone in his hands and everything. That was a big part of it. And then I remember when he did Badlands, he had a more raw, lower gain thing going on that was really cool. So I think that helped cement his reputation when he did the Badlands albums and he had that real raw thing and more like, bluesy and fuzz and kind of dry. It's almost 70s sounding production. And people went, all right, at that point he, stretched over a period of time, had this real reputation for cool parts, sounds, songs, tones, the whole thing. Yeah. I listened to Pete Thorn 2 yesterday, says Defcon Clark. It's awesome. Thanks. I'm still really proud of it. I need to, get on it doing another album one of these days. I saw my friend Charlie the other day, and he's got a studio down the street from me, and I want to go and do some stuff with him, like basics over at his studio. It's literally like walking distance, and so... it would just be really fun. He's always busy touring, but we'll make some time and we'll get some tracks done and stuff. It'd be cool. Oh, yeah. All right. Have you ever tried to jam online via Zoom? I mean, I haven't just because of the latency and stuff. I don't even know if it's possible, but I do have friends that have like another drummer friend of mine, actually, Mike Bennett. He's got a setup that supposedly is latency-free streaming, where he does not just jams, but recording sessions, where he can actually track remotely and play with other people. I don't know how you do that. It's like, that's kind of amazing to me. But he's got it figured out. He's like a tech whiz, Occasionally these drummers come along, because we always make drummer jokes and how they're knuckleheads and stuff like that. And occasionally there's a drummer that comes along that's like incredibly technically sophisticated and smart. And Mike Bennett is one of those guys where he's just like got a big brain and he's got a full, he's also super close to me and has a full-blown recording setup, and also streaming kind of setup where he can do, full-on video stuff, and be it for doing sessions or even, lessons or anything like that. And he's really got that stuff all figured out way beyond what I've got figured out. So he would be the one that would have the answer on how to do the live Zoom streaming. Anyways. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. There's somebody here that wants to talk about tubes. I just want to talk about that and stuff like the ECC 83 and 5751 mil-spec. I guess I missed the earlier discussions, but I love tubes. I hear people saying things like a 12AU7 substitute for 12AX7. It can be. Other times it is a bad thing. Well, it's really low gain compared to a 12AX7. 5751, also low gain. 12AT7 is also lower gain, but not quite as... It's like 70% of the gain, I think, and maybe a 12AU7 60 or 50 or something. So, many times they're used in like I think a 12AU7 is a phase inverter in certain Fender amps, isn't it? And an AT7 is sometimes the first stage, or a 5751 in Fenders. It's a way to clean up Fenders. I know Steve Ray Vaughan used to do it, I think. As the first tube, he would use 5751, I think. That's what I heard, anyway. For a little more headroom. You turn the amp up more. It seems like, you're getting a little more clean range or something, or headroom out of it. But, yeah, it's, your mileage may vary. You can always try. You're not going to hurt anything by putting an AU7 or an AT7 or an AX7 in the first stage of something that was designed for an AX7. You can do that, and it'll work fine. Might sound weird in a Fender that was designed for an AU7 to put an AX7 in the phase inverter. It could be a little, but yeah, your mileage may vary. There's a super chat there I'm going to grab. So let's get to that. There's a few here, actually. It's kind of funny. Sometimes they don't pop up in the thing above. But I try and watch and be careful. Like this one, I didn't see in that's highlighted right now. I didn't see it in the little area on the side. But anyways, any chance you could convince Mr. Sir to make a single coil-sized humbucker? I'm using V63s in my Strat. I'd like to make it HSS without modding. V63s in my Strat. Oh, a single coil-sized humbucker, like a stack or something, right? He's messed with stuff like that a little bit, I think. I don't know where he's at on it. It's just a different sound, Like you could try something that's currently available and see what you think. Like, in other words, try a little 59 maybe, and see if you like it. They're never going to quite sound like because it just doesn't sense the same area on the string as a true 2-coil full size, humbucking thing. But I would just get a little 59 and see what you think of it, and see what you think of the sound, or the little JB. I mean, there's a couple out there that are already currently available and might scratch your itch, at least for the time being, because I don't know if he has anything planned like that. James says, stoked I stumbled upon your live stream today. Really enjoy your channel and have learned so much. Thank you. Appreciate that, James. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. I learn a lot every week being here, too. There's always somebody that teaches me something that I'm doing screwed up. Echo Plexi. There's another chat, or I should say super chat, that didn't show up upstairs where I normally see them. But here you are. Let's see. Looking forward to the new PT50. You're going to have it looks like a smaller PT100 or a bigger PT15. Closer to bigger PT15, but it's got its own thing. I mean, we're going to try and tie it to... I like the look of the PT15. I really do. And we've actually, the newest version of the PT100 is using the same kind of knobs as the PT15, the smaller chicken heads and stuff. And I just like the fonts and the way we've laid out I'm looking at the PT15 right now. I like the look. Like, I think it's a very handsome looking little amp, and I'm fine with the moving the whole kind of range as it develops in that direction, towards the general aesthetic of the way the PT15 looks. I love the Tolex. There's nothing that I really dislike about the look at all. You know, it's very easy to read the controls, the fonts, and the colors that you're using for the print and stuff, and the knobs and everything. I'm just very happy with it. So that's the way I'd like to go. And you know, in the future we'll do all amps, or at least I think, you know, with the tubes up, Marshall style, with the controls on the bottom. So that'll be the direction for the PT50 as well. Yeah. Excuse me. I'm just going to this one here. Are you still moving up? I think you mean miking up, right? Miking up cabs and tracking, or just using direct tools. I'm always miking cabs these days. I mean, I do use that said, I use the reactive load sometimes, and I use IR sometimes. But I'm generally speaking every day I'm miking things all the time. So this session that I did this week that was so much fun, I mic'd for that. I've got a new mic too, this Soyuz mic that I love, and it sounds so good. So I've really been enjoying, you know, using that, and that in conjunction with the 57, and sometimes just the Soyuz. It's a great sound. So yeah. Let's see here. Isaac says, are you using the newly released Parallelizer V2? I just received mine from Guitar Sanctuary. It has stereo sends instead of mono sends. No, I'm just using the original version that I've had actually for a year and a half or something. It's been sitting here, and I haven't used it yet, but I'm finally incorporating it on the board. I don't think I really need the stereo sends. There'd be no reason, you know, for my particular rig. So I think I'm fine with this one. I think it does everything I need. Yeah. Yeah. Ben Tom's asking about that as well. Parallel mixer. So yeah, I'm using the Musicom Lab, made in South Korea, of course. Terrific stuff from them. 2 products on my board now from them because I've got their Mark 6 switcher as well. I'll get those super chats that are up there. They've been there for a minute. I know that one just disappeared. I'll grab that in just 2 seconds. Ryan says, do the drive and dry knobs on the Halcyon Gold equate to the stacked pot on the Klon? I guess that's because I know it's kind of like a mix control, right? Mixing in the clipping circuit when you use a regular Klon as you bring up the gain. That's kind of like what it's doing. But good question. When the knobs are set the same, does the Halcyon produce the most authentic Klon tones? You'd have to ask the guys about that at Origin. I'm not really sure how that equates to, you know, I don't recall it saying in the manual. It might, but I'm sure there's a way, and that they thought that, like, we want to. It seems like they always want to make the best sounding pedal version of an older pedal that existed. That where you can get the stock sound, but then go beyond and do the, you know, the adaptive circuitry and all that stuff, the modded sound that they put in there, etc. So there's got to be a way that you can set it. Probably it's, yeah, good question. Is it with the mix on? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they track. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Sorry, I don't have all the answers, but I can say it's a great sounding pedal. Okay. Yeah, I just thought of this right now, and then there's Lauren, and I've been thinking about it all week, and I can't stop thinking about it, and it's so strange. Like I literally, it came in my head, like, we have to talk about this, and then there's Lauren saying it. So within the same second, that was really odd. But I thought we gotta just send out, you know, the folks in Hawaii. I mean, I just cannot believe what happened there this week. It's absolutely mind-bogglingly terrible. And I have a real connection to that place because I spent months there as a kid, and just some of my happiest memories growing up were there, you know, in Lahaina, and close to there. And I just can't believe what happened. You know, it's absolutely, not to get off track here for a second. We'll get back on in a minute, but I had to say something because it's friggin' mind-boggling, man. And I just feel so awful about it. So I went and donated. There's many places you can go and donate. But I went and donated, and there's got to be some way that, you know, that there could be a concert or something that's like some sort of benefit. There's so many people with connections to, you know, I think about like Kirk Hammett he lives there, or has at least part-time has a house there. I do believe it's Maui, I think. There's a lot of folks that have a connection to that place. And I just, I can't believe it. It's just unbelievable. It's just one of the happiest, most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. So I'm just really sad about that. All week I couldn't get it out of my head, It was weird because I was having a really positive week and doing good work, and lots of good things happened this week. And then in conjunction with that happening, and it was a very strange mix of emotions for me all week, like thinking about it and not being able to get that out of my head and just being mind blown by how tragic, I saw Michael Anthony was there this week, literally hours before the fire, and he took a video going down Front Street in Lahaina, and it shows the winds, how windy it was. It's incredible. Like there was these 70-mile-an-hour winds going on. It looks like a beautiful day, sunny day, and there's these crazy winds with the trees and the brush and everything blowing everywhere. And he's like, we literally took this 3 hours before the place was like just decimated by fire. And they got to the airport and managed to get out. I'm not sure where they, whether that was just blind luck or whether they happened to just be leaving that day or what it was. But anyways, it just is so sad. It just bumps me out so much. And so anyways, if you can go donate, if you have the ways and means, I did that this week. I don't know what else to do, but it would be great to see. I'd be happy to donate my time and effort to a concert or something really substantial in any way. And I bet everybody would do that, right? I mean, in the music community. Anyways. Okay. Rory, there's your super chat. And I really appreciate it. No question, no nothing. Just a nice super chat from you. Appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. I'm still just. Once I start thinking about this, I can't stop. But anyways, just like it's just really difficult. It's crazy. I saw somebody put up a really mean post that was like on like Twitter or something saying, stop talking about how sad you are because your vacations, you're like, visitors there and stuff. And it's like, there's people here that live here and stuff. And and it's like, no, it's not about that. It's like, there's probably very few people that actually live there that are, in this chat. And most people obviously don't live there. It's a place that you visit. And for most of us, and that's our connection to it. I feel like is that when you visit a place, and form have positive memories and stuff, it forms a bond that's different if you've never been there. And so I think that's what the majority of people are expressing. If they've been there, they recognize you just have more of an empathy and connection because of your memory and your connection to a place. So I don't even understand what this person was trying to say, like being all, stop talking about your vacations or something. I mean, that's our memories to it. I vacationed, when I was a little boy. I was there 3 times, for a month each year. We went there, which I'm so happy that we did that, and thank you to my parents and everything for bringing us there, because it's just some of my greatest memories. So anyways, I'm just saying, it's like that's how you form a connection to a place, and how you just have more empathy when when that happens. Tim and Pete, Tim and I didn't manage to get that together for this week. We were gonna Tim was gonna be on the show, and anyways, it's getting pushed back just a little bit because we just didn't manage to put it together. But I'm gonna put that together. Possibly next week I can have him on the show, and we've got a little project that we just want to mention and stuff, a little collaboration, and so hopefully next week and stuff. The week just got away from me, and this week we just didn't get it together. But anyways, that'll be coming. Great reviews on the Jake E. Lee amp and Klon Gold. They both sound great. Thanks, man. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing through both of those this week. So I'm pretty far back in the chat at this point, so I better go down. I got some more super chats to grab on the way here. But are you playing in the band? You're sometimes in Monterey this year. Monterey. Which band? Oh, is that Five for Fighting, maybe? He's doing no. I bet you're talking about the Five for Fighting. He's doing a string quartet tour. So it's John Andrazik with a string quartet. It'll be a great show if you want to go. It's just a different show. It's not the rock band, so it'll be different. We did our one sort of summer tour. I think he likes to do like a tour with at this point with the band, and then a tour with the quartet. You know, and kind of have his different musical worlds he lives in. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Brian says trying out pickups is always a leap of faith because you can't return them to the shop the following Monday like you can with an amp. I seem to remember. Did I just squeak? I seem to remember that there was a time actually that Seymour Duncan offered a return policy. Didn't they do that? Like a 30-day thing or something where you could always exchange it? I don't know if you could return it and get your money back, but I think there was an exchange policy. I could be wrong about that, but I seem to remember there was a 30-day thing. But anyways, it's not a hard, something like a little 59. It's not a huge expense, and I think they're under $100, aren't they? Maybe. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. But anyways, once you get it, if you don't like it, you can always sell it. You know, that'd be something that would go pretty quick on Reverb, I would think. You might lose $20 or something, but that's it. You know. Which mic did he say? Tim, I was talking about my Soyuz mic. It's called a 1973. You can look it up on the interwebs. Sweetwater has them and stuff. It's an amazing sounding condenser mic that I've been using on my guitar cab. I'm a longtime fan of the Audio-Technica 4050 and always will be. But this Soyuz that has actually, at least for the time being, displaced it. Do you pad the Soyuz? Yeah, you have to. It distorts pretty early otherwise. But yeah, I've been using the 20 dB pad, and that keeps it clean. Thanks for the great demo on the JEL20. Helped me with pulling the trigger as soon as it's back in stock. I might have missed it, but was it straight guitar into amp? Yeah, I didn't use any boosts or anything like that. In one part of the video, and I mentioned that I use a compressor on the clean part. But I don't think I did in the mix, actually. I just did it, not in the song. I did it in the video just to show what it would sound like on the clean to add a compressor. But no, there's no pedals otherwise or anything. It's all just straight up, straight into the head, man. Into an old Marshall cab. Yeah. How did it come about for Melissa to play the guitar at the same time behind you? You mean where she used to come around, put her arms around me, and then play the guitar? That was something that she used to do with Philip, and then we just kind of adapted it. She's like, "Here, do you mind if I do this?" And I'm like, "No, not at all. It's fun." I mean, she likes to do little showy things in her show that are kind of fun and stuff. So, show business. I'm just sorry, I was getting a text. Yeah. So it was her idea, but she'd done it before, I think. One of the most misunderstood single coil size pickups, says Ray, is the medium output Little Screamin' Demon by Seymour Duncan. Really articulate and chimey. I could see that matched with my MFDs in my 82G and LS 500 perfectly. That's cool. Yeah, the Little Screamin' Demon, that's about a 10K or something, or it's like a hotter than PAF, but not much kind of pickup. That might be a good one to look at if you want something that's got a little heat in the bridge. Octopus says, I think we're trying to say can't go wrong with Seymour Duncan. Yeah, I'm a longtime Duncan fan. I mean, I feel like they make great stuff, and it's always been readily, easy to get, readily available, and if it's like I always say, I mean, I've got my own PAF style with the Thorn buckers and stuff, but I never hesitate to recommend a antiquity humbuckers if you're looking for a good PAF and you need something that's just readily available. And it's like, yeah, if the store's got an antiquity, it's a really nice sounding Alnico 2 PAF style pickup. They've been out for years before any of the boutique stuff, and always good. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm just moving down through the chat. Let's see. Sorry, just I got to all your comments about the situation on Maui and just kind of reading through them really quick here. Yeah, man. It's a sad week. Here's some super chats from Firewolf. With a Blues Junior in a small room, do you recommend a load box? Live stream the concert and make it so we can buy a ticket. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be something that comes up, right? I mean, so many people have a connection to that place. So concert-wise, it's like, I bet there'll be we'll see something from, I mean, it's going to cost, they said $5 billion to, it's crazy. I saw one, I mean, somebody had started a fund and with a goal of, it was like a GoFundMe with a goal of $1 million, raising $1 million, and it was at 1.8, which is amazing, within 48 hours or something, So that's awesome to see. Everybody will kick in and help when they can, I'm sure, Yeah, man. It's just when I think about the really difficult situations. Of course, the island is so based around tourism. I saw a figure that's at 80% of the GDP or whatever it is. There is based around tourism. But they're telling nobody to go there right now, and people to leave, right? Because there's such need for the resources and everything. All has to go right now. So it's a double whammy because. They're just gonna need a lot of money for a while. They're gonna need a lot of support from folks that and that's something that I for sure. I mean, I'll donate more and continue to. And if I could be a small part of some show or something, I don't know, I would be happy to do that and just continue to. It just means a lot to me. I love that place. I love Oahu as well. I go there more often, and I've visited Oahu probably like. I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 times in the last 10 years. And I really love to go to the North Shore and just rent an Airbnb and hang out up there for, 5-6 days, that kind of thing. That's been my jam for a while. Not so much Maui. That was more when I was a kid that I was going there. But I just have a real love of I've never been to Kauai. I'd love to go there at some point. And been to the Big Island. Really enjoyed that as well. But anyways, it's a special place, So those people need our help, need support. Guitars for your project says, do you need a switcher with the parallelizer? Can you go over the signal path with the EVH, Boss Delay, and the H90? So you don't need a switcher, but it is MIDI, and you can switch the sends and stuff via MIDI. So it's also got big foot buttons on it that allow you to turn on and off each effect individually. So you can use a switcher, or you don't have to use a switcher. So if you want to use a switcher, you can, MIDI switcher. I'm using mine with my Mark 6 from Musicom Lab. Can you go over the signal path? Well, basically, your guitar is going to go into the so probably effects loop send, or if you're doing a wet dry thing, it'll be the the line out tap that you're taking. That'll go into the mixer. And then you've essentially got send and returns for up to 3 different effects. Mono sends on mine. The new version has stereo sends if you need that. Mine's mono sends and stereo returns. If you wanted to run in mono, you can do that too. So you get a channel effect 1, effect 2, effect 3, mono send, and stereo return for each of those, right? And then you get a stereo set of outs. And that's it. Really, and it's really easy, And there's a dry level knob, and then send 1, send 2, send 3 level knobs for all of those, and push button switches to turn them all on and off. So you'll probably never turn off the dry, but yeah, that's how you do it. Okay, let's see. What else we got here? Seymour has that's good to know. Seymour has a 21-day return exchange. Yeah. Yes, Seymour has a 30-day. Well, it's one of the two. I'm sure it's on their website, whatever it is. But yeah, there is some sort of return or exchange thing. Yeah, okay. There's a super chat there from Rocamp. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. How did it come about for Melissa to... Oh, sorry, answered that one already. Okay, Soyuz 1973 through a Neve 1073. Yeah, basically, that is what I did this week. It's a... yeah, that's correct. I've been using my BAE 1073 style pre a lot. It's basically two Neve 1073s, and you can sum them both to one output, and that's what I've been using a lot lately for here in my studio. I'm really quite enjoying that. Matter of fact, the guitars that I did this week for this cool project that I can't talk about, but that hopefully will see the light of day. The producer hit me back and said that he doesn't have to do anything. He said he just dropped them in the track and pretty much pulls them up, and they don't even need EQ and stuff, really. So I appreciated that. I got a dribble cup. Let me get one of those lids in it. Shit. Over my shirt. Oh, brother. Okay. Let's see. David. What's up, David? Love your stuff. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. Not sure if you've answered this. Why do you move on from Alnico 4 in your Thornbucker? Well, I haven't. I still play those all the time. I just got a little sucked in by the Eddie Van Halen pickup video that I did. And, you know, I wanted to experiment with Alnico 2 after that. I started to realize that sometimes with certain amps, a warm pickup with a little softer top end can be a great thing. And maybe Eddie was onto something, you know, in the early days of moving to Alnico 2. And it's interesting because if you see the evolution of his tone from Van Halen 1, which we all love and it sounds amazing, but it is bright, you know, it's got a really hairy edge on it. To Van Halen 2 is much warmer, fair warning, nice and warm, you know, great, amazing tone. You know, you know, moving away from probably the JBL on the first record and that incorporating those speakers, I think that was a part of the sizzles. But also the pickups, you know, moving towards the, you know, a warm magnet into a Marshall is a cool thing. So that's all. I was feeling like for gain, sometimes it can be not a bad thing at all to have that warm humbucker, slightly warmer, you know, on the top end. And that's the way I hear Alnico 2. I just hear it as having a spongy, sort of a cool sponge in the bottom end, and then a little more rounded on the top end. That when you're playing a bridge humbucker into a bright amp, it can be a nice combo. Now, Alnico 4 is a little warmer than 5. I've almost totally moved away from 5s. The 4 to me is warmer than a 5, and a 2 is even more in the warm direction. So, you know, now a 5 in the neck is nice because it has, you know, treble to cut through, you know. They just tend to have a little more of a scooped sound, or a little bigger, rather than scoop, maybe a little bigger bass, a little bigger treble. And so in the neck, I find if you don't go too hot, you keep the bass side of the pickup a little lower, that makes it not too loud. And then if you angle it up a little bit on the treble side, and you're using an Alnico 5, it makes the neck pickup really clear, you know. So I like that. I don't like mud on neck pickups, that's for sure. But I don't like ice pick on bridge pickups. So it's all a combination. It's all a formula, isn't it? How do you approach the learning curve when evaluating new gear? I try and just sort of allow myself ample time to learn something. You know, if it's a new modeling unit, from say line 6 or Headrush or something, I'm always like, okay, you're just gonna have to play with this thing for a day just to get a handle on the learning curve. So don't sit down and think that you're gonna bust out a piece of music within the first half an hour. Just sit there and mess with it and work through the menus and figure out the hierarchy of things and kind of what it does and what it's designed to do, you know. That's all. Just allow yourself ample time to do that stuff and recognize that that's just part of it, you know. That said, I mean, I'm not a fan of that process, really, like the learning curve thing. I just feel like it's part of what I do, because I'm expected to explain things, and to some degree, you know. I moved away pretty early on in my videos, my video demos and stuff, I realized like I don't want to be the guy that shows you every feature of this thing, like be it an XFX or whatever it is. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make a video manual about something and spend all my time explaining what every feature is and all that stuff. I want to make music, you know. So in my videos, I realized I didn't have to do that. I realized, like, especially with somebody like Strymon, let's say, that does amazing videos on their website. They do, you know, Ethan, he makes terrific videos about their products and explains all the features and all the ins and outs. And you can go to them for that, you know. And what I wanted to do was make music and get people excited about the sounds, you know, that are possible, and then explain a few of the key features. You know, that's sort of how I approach my videos, I think. I'm not going to show you every damn thing the thing does and make a video manual. I'm going to make some music and give you a sort of the Coles Notes version of features. Yeah. Dominic says, Pete, gotta go wet, dry, wet if possible. You know, I did it for years, man. I mean, I toured with Chris Cornell and Melissa Etheridge and Don Henley using wet, dry, wet rigs, and I know the ins and outs of it and stuff. And I'll tell you why I don't do it anymore. Most of the bands that I play in are big. Like, for instance, Classic Rock Show now is a big band. There's another guitar player, there's keys, there's multiple singers, there's a lot of stuff on stage. So even just having the room for like wet, dry, wet, you know, a rack and 3 cabinets and everything that I needed, it was like crazy how much stuff I had. 3 microphones, you know, I'd say wet, dry, wet is terrific if you are Eddie Van Halen or, you know, Steve Stevens, even, you know, like with, if you're that kind of, you know, big, you know, it's that rock star guitar player and you need a really big sound on stage. There's nothing like it. It's awesome. It's great. But if you're in a band with another guitar player, instantly I'm like, if there's one other guitar player on stage, I'm like, maybe not wet, dry, wet, you know, because where does the sound person put you in the mix then? I mean, do you pan like 10 and 2 with the 2 guitars, but this guy's stereo with 3 cabinets? So how do you know, for Eddie, it made total sense, right? Because he could fill up the whole, he needed a sound that big. So it works great. So, and also just with 3 microphones and stuff, it was like, it's asking on a lot of the tours that I do, they're like, I can't give you 3 channels, you know, I've got like the keyboard player and this and 4 singers up here and all this, you know, it's like 2 channels is a lot, you know, I can give you stereo, you know. So for me, I moved from wet, dry, wet to a 2 412s and 2 heads stereo rig when I redesigned a board. And I did that with Melissa Etheridge. And so I did 1 year of touring with her, kind of wet, dry, wet, and I did the next year with stereo. And I really liked going to stereo. It was less stuff, a little more compact, still sounded really big. And if you mix your sounds right and everything, do it all right, it still sounds killer, you know? It still sounds awesome. So, and that's like, you know, there's plenty of people doing stereo rigs these days. I mean, Eddie did it in '84 before he went to wet, dry, wet. And then when I think of like Steve Lukather, he runs, right, 2 Helios, I think, heads and 2 412s. I mean, he's a stereo rig. It's like, I'm pretty sure Neil Sean doesn't do wet, dry, wet. I think he's stereo. You know, you generally see him with a couple heads and a couple cabs. And when you've got 2 heads and 2 cabs, you've got enough to, you know, have a backup amp up there. So you can always, you know, plug in mono if you have to just one of the amps. If your main head goes down, you got to just switch all the cables over to the other one and run mono. Or if if the second head goes down, you know, the one that you're using as the return for the stereo side, if that goes down, you've still got the other one, the main head. So you're covered there. It just works, you know. It's a little less stuff. It's a little easier for the sound person to handle 2 channels and go, or just give you a stereo input on the console, and then they can pan you, you know, 10 and 2 or whatever. Like I said, pan 10 o'clock while the other guitar player is 2 o'clock, and you've still got your stereo spread to it. You know what I memean? It's just easier, man. You know. So that was a long diatribe, but I've tried them all. So much punchier with the center dry cab. Yeah, I know it's cool, but there's absolutely no doubt it's cool. But I've done it, and I'm just telling you I've also experienced this. this is the other thing. When you're in a really big band, like I was in with Don Henley, where there was literally 2 keyboard players, background singers, 2 guitar players, there's tons of stuff going on. And people would come to the show and say that they could hear Stuart, the other guitar player, better than me. And he had a mono, kind of mid-rangey sound with a PV Classic 50 was his only amp. And I had 3 cabinets and 3 microphones and my full setup. And it was getting lost in that. And I realized, okay, wait a minute. In a band like this, there's a reason why, when you go see Jeff Beck or something, he'd use his Pro Junior a lot, mic'd, right? You have the Marshall on stage for fatness and for him, but the sound in the PA, it'd be the little Pro Junior. That mid-rangey poke that, you know what I mean? Maybe he's not the best example because he's a solo guitar player. But when I think about Stuart's sound or the Eagles guitar sounds, just think about that, cranked up sort of Tweed Deluxe kind of sound, right? And it sort of lives in the mid-range and stuff like that. And that's what Stuart was doing. I mean, he used a Menatone Red Snapper into a PV Classic 50. That was his main overdrive sound. And he had a compressor and maybe an echo and maybe a tremolo or something on his board. And that was it. And it's just all in his hands. And his sound was just like, he'd hit that compressor in the Menatone, I think, for solos and through the Classic 50. And it just had this poke that like right through the middle of the PA and the rest of the band. And then when I play, I had all this stuff going on and everything. And my sound was a little more even and a little more scooped. And it was not as present, So there's times where you just don't want to do it, It just depends on what you're doing. If you're Eddie Van Halen, it makes total sense to do it. It was brilliant. When blending mics for your tracks, do you blend them differently for rhythm versus lead? Yeah, I do. I'm always thinking about the part and like how I want it to sit and then what I'm going to layer on top of it. So like if I'm, for instance, if I'm these days, if I'm layering a couple dirty guitars, I might make them a little darker and a little warmer while still being clear, but like err on the side of maybe like with the Soyuz, I'm sort of erring on the side of using it a lot and then just blending in the 57 below it to get enough poke and enough cut because the Soyuz has a very clear but not too bright picture, kind of, and then like for the lead guitar, I might lay on the 57 a little more just because it's got a little bit more of that upper, the upper mid kind of stuff. And so yeah. But yeah, no, it's always it's a fun thing, blending the mics and going, what do I want for this tone? Picking the right guitar and then a different guitar for a double and, imagining you're painting a picture, and you don't always want it to be all the same, as far as the mics go. So do you use the Soyuz in combination? Yeah, with a 57. That's what I'm doing right now, blending the two. So I took a picture yesterday. I can show you what it looks like on the cab. I was explaining what I was doing to somebody. It's pretty basic, but you can see here. Let's turn up the brightness on the screen. Looks like that on my cabinet. So you can see the Marshall cab upside down, because I do that. 57 on the one stand there on my movable Dynamount, and then the Soyuz in front of the other speaker. So that's how I do it. Blend them, and I'm running them both into a BA 1073, and I can blend the coming out of the summed output. What do you think of the new version of Soft Tube Amp Room? I'm supposed to be looking at that and doing a video and stuff, and I haven't yet, and I need to do that. So thanks for reminding me. I'm going to do that later today. Remind me at 5 p.m. to look at Soft Tube Amp Room. I have to try it and get into that. It's been something that just another one of those things on the schedule that I got to do. So I'll get back to you, but I'm sure it's probably pretty cool. I like the original versions of it. So yeah. Okay. I replaced the pickups on my PRS Core Silver Sky with Antiquity Texas Hots, and wow, it's an improvement. Sold the PRS pickups for more online than the SDs. Interesting. Antiquity are nice. Yeah, they're really cool. Mind you, I mean, I love the sound of the Silver Sky, the way that I heard it. I liked the scooped kind of in-between positions that, obviously John had something to do with the design, and I thought it was really fun the way the guitar sounded stock. But you might have liked a bit more. What you've probably got going now is a bit more mids and saucy, right? Output and all that. Friggin' cup. I'm gonna take the lid off. That'll solve the problem. I don't need the lid in here. Damn it. Making a mess. Like a little kid sometimes. Speaking of double whammy, has anyone stacked 2 or more whammy pedals? That's interesting. Go up 4 octaves. Yeah, never tried that. I snorted thinking about it. Okay. Did you do a video with the Fender Strat Acoustasonic? I did, yeah. Or you did. Yes, I did. You created such a beautiful melody. Thank you. I'm curious what you think of the Tele or Strat Acoustasonic. I personally think they're great. They seem to be very polarizing, those guitars. But when I tried it, I could totally see the potential. And I've used it like this. Like, if you're going to a gig and you don't have a lot of space in the car and you need to maybe get a variety of sounds and maybe you need to play a solo, sometimes. So, like, when I think of, like, a duo performer or, like acoustic duos, Fool on the Stool kind of stuff, where you're carrying in a PA maybe. Like, maybe I'm carrying that Bose speaker into, the little one that I did. I love that thing that I did a review on recently. And the guitar in a gig bag, and I can go from my car into a gig in one trip. That kind of gig, that thing is perfect. And also something where maybe you got to be loud on stage without any feedback. The Acoustasonic's great for that. Like, there's all kinds of ways that I could see using it that are really cool. So it sounds good too. I mean, the acoustic sounds are really cool, I think. So I think they're a neat tool, but they were kind of polarizing. The argument could be made they're kind of expensive. When they first came out, they were made only in the US, I think, and they're a couple grand. And so that's a fair amount of money for a guitar. So I guess there's that argument. I could see that as being a valid, I think they've now come out with, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you can get versions that are, maybe made in Mexico or something, so a little less expensive. But overall, I think a really cool product and useful, I guess it's the look that kind of maybe is polarizing for some people. They want their acoustics to look like acoustics. I could see that, I guess, too. But the exact person that I thought this is a great guitar for, I saw a duo in La Jolla down south, down by San Diego. I went to a sushi place and had some sushi, and these guys were playing out on the the outdoor area. Good, they sounded really good. It was a singer, a guitar player, and then the other guy was just playing guitar. And he had was it the Tele version or the Jazzmaster? I can't remember, but I was like, that's the guy that I could see playing this, like out on a little gig like that, like. And he took solo. He did exactly what I thought. He hit the electric sound, where it kind of sounds like a tally into a hot Fender amp or something. And he would hit that for some solos and stuff like that. And it was like perfect, just totally makes sense as a tool, might not be, this is the ultimate guitar for every purpose, but certainly as a versatile gigging guitar, it makes a lot of sense for some folks. Yeah, is the Freakout still on your board? Yeah, I use it all the time. I love it. That'll be a fixture on there for the foreseeable future. I mean, it's definitely super useful. So I used it all over when I first got it. It's on Pete Thorn 2. It's amazing that I've had it that long. Can't believe that fast time passed, but I guess I finished that record 2018 or whenever it was, whenever I put it out, and I had just gotten that pedal, I think, and I used it a lot for feedback stuff on the record. So another cool pedal that I was just thinking about that I used this week. I used it on the session that I did this week that I had so much fun doing. Is this guy, the Bigsby pedal. Have you guys seen this thing? Oh man! So pitch bend, and you can do it where you push it forward or the back end of the pedal. It doesn't matter. There's all kinds of different things you can do with it. Kind of mod type sounds or more like pitch bend sounds. This thing is great, man. And on this solo that I played this week on this session, I used this and I went up to a super high double stop bend, and then I reached behind and did the Phil X pull up the strings, so it went and then kind of pulled it up, and then I hit the pedal to do a drop pitch thing, like a whammy bar down, which would be impossible to do with a bar because I was using my other hand, right? So it's like double stop bend, pull the strings to make it really crazy sounding, and then drop the whammy, or Bigsby. And it sounded really cool. Oh, yeah. L. Scott Music, Lauren says about the Maui situation. I wonder if Mick Fleetwood's restaurant survived. No, man, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. There's a bar in Pasadena called the Blind Donkey, and they had a sister bar there as well. And the folks that own Blind Donkey own different properties and bars and stuff, and it was in Maui, and that was something that hit home for me because I saw all the people that work there. They did a post, and the bar is completely gone, now, and it was a really cool bar before, and they showed all the employees, and there's like 20 employees, that work in this place, and you just think about all those people now that are like, it's, they're out of work. They done, they maybe some of them lost, people that were close to them. I don't know if everybody's safe or not that was even there. It's like. It just, when you see the people, and you think about their livelihood and their well-being, and that brings it home, right? But yeah, no. So Mick's place is for sure. See, this is what I mean. So many musicians have such a connection to that place that my hope is there's some sort of, something in the music community, some sort of benefit concert that can raise some money and provide for some of these people, Anyways, JJ says, for your stereo rig, you were talking about loading down the amp, going into the effects, and then feed a power amp, and then into cabs. I'm actually not doing that. I'm going to do it using Effect Loop. So you could do that, though. What stereo power amp would I plan to use? The only tube stereo power amp that I have right now here is the Synergy. But I think it sounds quite good. I believe it was largely designed by Stevie Fryatt. I think he had a lot to do with the design and the synergy, so it's probably pretty close to what he does. So that's the only power amp that I have right now. If I was going to do a loaded down setup, I would probably use it. It's a dual 50 watt. That sounds quite good. But yeah, long story short, I'm not doing that. I'm doing two heads using the effects loops because the PT100 has just a brilliant effects loop. So. That's the way that I'm going to be using this rig. At least I've got a tour coming up with Nick Carter in pretty soon. So that's my plan, is using two PT100s, probably my two 212 cabinets that match. I've got 412s here too. I don't know if I'll use the 412s. I'll see. I'll probably try both. I've got two 412s here, and I've got two 212s as well. So I'm going to try them both and see what works the best. Should I just go 412s? Why not, right? We'll see. Not sure. But anyways, yeah. Okay. Let's see. VH2 and Fair Warning are my favorite tones. Kind of me too, actually. I would say, like overall, God, I was listening to hear about it later on, that live Oakland version. I love that, man. It was cool. I was listening to that the other day. It sounds so good. I love the intro to hear about it later with the flanger and the clean sound. It's so cool. Now that the SG3000 covers modern EVH delays, what brand do you think should develop an EVH reverb that would simulate the Sunset Sound echo chamber? I don't know if he did use any reverb later. What his guitars got so much drier, as time went on. I'm not actually sure what maybe they were doing. Maybe a little AMS or something on 5150. That's a really good question. I think he wanted to move like consciously away from that sound, the verb thing, and so when we listen to, I actually, I can't think of right now whether or not I hear reverb on like something like 1980. There's probably some on 1984, but. We have to go listen to it. Go listen to the intro of 5150, the song, maybe, and hear if there's any reverb going on, or if it's just kind of dry with the Eventide, and maybe a little echo or a little something. But anyways, I know I've seen AMS, I think, reverbs in his studio, and the old photographs, that's seemed to be a a standard, so it's probably something like that. But yeah, the Sunset Sound Reverb, I mean, it just sounds brilliant in the plug-in that I've got that I bought for $99 from, is it Softtube? Did they do it? Or IK? I can't remember, but I think it's Softtube, isn't it? I don't know. Anyways, there's a Sunset Sound Reverb plug-in that I got for $99. It sounds absolutely brilliant. That's all the modeled rooms and the chamber and all that, and it sounds perfect. I imagine if I sat, you know, with, you can get pretty close with most reverbs, you know, if you spend some time with them, with a big sky or something, you know, call up a plate or something and just sit there and try and dial it in for half an hour, you probably get pretty close enough anyway, if you really want that sound. I remember playing a gig in the 90s or something, and there was a Van Halen cover band that was opening the show, and the guy was great. I don't remember who it was. I wonder if it was Al Estrada or something, and I just didn't know him yet, but whoever the guitar player was, they had the reverb in the rig, you know, and whatever they were using sounded killer. I wonder what it was. But that was the first time I ever heard somebody do the album reverb. Like, it's not even Eddie did that, but the album reverb in a live rig, you know, actually sounded really cool in this rig, I remember. And I wondered what it was then. I wonder what it was now. Have I communicated with Phil X? I haven't talked to Phil for a long time, man. Hope he's doing good, but I haven't for quite some time. Let's see. I gave my BAE dual mic pre to a friend, but to put it actually in front of his amplifier for a clean boost. I suppose you could use it for a 1073 style mic pre. Geez, a clean boost. That's interesting. Probably sound kind of cool with the lines boosted up. But yeah, use it for a mic pre. Or DMP, is that a pedal? I don't know. Might not have the mic pre circuit. BAE makes a really underrated fuzz pedal. I wonder if is that the one you're talking about, or is that the yellow pedal? They have two. There's a gray one and a yellow one. Maybe the yellow one is the DMP that you're talking about. But the gray one is a fuzz and treble boost in one pedal. Check that out if you guys haven't seen it. It's killer. Them both on at the same time is a devastatingly cool sound. It's a really, really good pedal. The only drag about it was that it had an odd-sized power jack, and the input and output were reversed. And I remember saying to Mark from BAE, like, why did you do that? Why did you put that? And he goes, well, that's the way that old pedals were, like English pedals. And I was thinking, like, yeah, but I wouldn't do it now. I would modernize that just because it's weird. You plug, you know, they're just the input and output were reversed, and he did it for some reason. Like Color Sound used to do it like that or something. I was like, I don't think it's a good reason to do it, but that was my only complaint about the pedal. It was a terrific sounding guitar effector. Crate power block worth getting for $50, says Finger Blasting for Dummies. You know, they were a great little thing to have as a backup. I mean, they were kind of like the original what, you know, the amped one is now, I guess, or the I better be careful of the Thomas pedal. Maybe is the one I should say. The what's the oh God, I'm forgetting now. Thomas's you know, 4-button 4-banger amp pedal, you know, that he does with the power amp built in, the 100-watt. My memory these days. But I'm thinking also the Black Star amped one and stuff. That's sort of a similar vibe. But anyways. Okay. Let's see. What else we got here? Do you like the new Jake E. Lee? Yeah, I mean, it's killer sounding. It's a great Marshall-y in a little box thing, you know, really, really cool and nice having that clean channel, great little gigging head, you know, for somebody that wants that sort of thing. We're spoiled these days for amps, that's for sure. Can you get Mick Mars Jose tones out of your red Germino? Pretty close, I would say. Yeah, pretty close. It's got that thing, but there was something about that Mick amp that was like really special. It had a thing that, and we talk about that in the video that I did with Richard Fortis, who owned it for many years. The certain mid-range it had was really cool. You know, I don't know what it was, but it was a little something that it had going on. I used the Germino this week actually for something. I did a little double, and it was one of the amps in the double, and sounded really cool. Okay. Braxall was saying, do I have an echo going? No, it's you. It's not me. He had 2 instances of the show going. Okay. Okay. Scott Brockway says, I hate Randy Rhoads' tone on Blizzard, but I love Tribute. You know, it's funny because I was never like a huge fan of the tone, the Randy tone, but yeah, I can't imagine it being any different because it's married to the songs to me, you know? It's like part of the sound, you know, Diary of a Madman and Blizzard. That's just the way that music sounds. And if you had a different sound, I guess it could potentially sound better, you know, had it been recorded a different way or if had to use a different thing. But it sounds like a piece of history. So it's like, how do you know, like I can't disassociate like one from the other or whatever. So, there's Nerd Halen with a super chat, giving some props to. He's a fan of Kauai. Man, all those islands, just a beautiful place. You know, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that. It's a magic place. You know, but don't go now. You know, send them your donations and help them out. That's what I say. They need our help at this point, but not our presence there. I think maybe unless you're going to work for the recovery, you know. If you're a general contractor or, you know, you got time to devote, God, I bet they could use that kind of help right now, right? You know. Anyways, okay. VH early albums sound best. The broken pickup on 84 is awful. I don't know, man. I love the guitar sounds on 84. I don't really hear that on 84. I hear it on the live stuff pre-84. I don't know. I love the guitar sounds on 84. I mean, Hot for Teacher's the V anyway, you know, and Top Jimmy is the Ripley guitar. So there's stuff going on there that's not. But once again, I can't separate the sound of 84 from the music or the moment in time. I think 84 sounds perfect, Simmons drums and all, you know, because it's just a piece of history. I wouldn't want it to change. So, yeah. I've heard raw tracks off 84 too, like with no harmonizer, and the raw tone of Hot for Teacher is really cool. Like the direct, you know, just the V into Marshall just sounds like you would think. It sounds so good. So, really cool. Would like to hear you dive into Ty Tabor's tones. Yeah, me too, man. I mean, I've got a lab here. The only thing I don't have is just would need the pickguard assembly. I think John Suhr has one with the correct pickups and stuff, with the boost and everything. It's the precursor to what became in the Clapton guitars and stuff, I think, you know, the mid-boost circuit that Ty had, because that's an important part of the front end, like huge part of the sound, I think. What's your typical backup rig for rock stuff? I took the Amped 1 recently, just because it'll do, you know, it's an amp. You can plug it into a cabinet. It's got the Fender setting, and it's got a Marshall setting. And so when I was out with Classic Rock Show and just recently with Five for Fighting, I had that out on the road as my backup. Like, if worst come worst, I could plug that thing into one of my little 112s with Five for Fighting, and I'd have a sound. Or, you know, our bass player actually ended up using it because his SVT crapped out. So he used it for the last week of the tour, and it sounded great for him. I think he was really happy with it. Christopher's there with a super chat. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you there, Burke himself, for the super chat. Appreciate you guys. Yep. What do you think about using like a Line 6 or QC? Well, I used that on the... I've used both, you know. I've used Helix Live, and I used the... I did a little cover gig recently. I used the Line 6 HX FX with a combo amp, and it was great. It's terrific. But the QC I used as my rig on Five for Fighting tour, running into a power amp and also running the XLRs to front of house. So I used it in a power amp and cabs on stage and the XLRs in front of house, and it's great. I think I'm of the mind, like, long story short, just use what gets the job done for the size and the type of gig you're doing. And if that means modeling for, you know, versatility, reliability, what you need to do, then by all means go for it. You know, your paycheck will probably stay the same whether you use that or something else. So do what you got to do to make the these days the tools are so good, you know, between Axe Effects and the Helix and the Quad Cortex and the Head Rush and all these great units that you can use when, you know, I saw the other night, I saw Andy Timmons. That's another thing we should talk about. Andy Timmons this week at the Baked Potato. I'm spacing on Rocco was the other guitar player's name, I think. Is that right? Somebody's going to say it in the chat. Terrific guitar player. Here, I'm going to get the guy's name just 1 second. He was so good. My point being that Andy was actually using amps. He had it was Gary Husband with Rocco Zeffirelli was the other guitarist. Jimmy Johnson on bass. So it was Gary Husband, unbelievable drummer, right? And Jimmy Johnson, incredible rhythm section, legendary rhythm section. And then Andy Timmons was playing guitar, and Rocco was playing guitar as well. So anyways, Andy had a rig using a Lone Star and a 212 cabinet, but then he was also using a Sir Bella, and he had the effects kind of like a wet dry, but I think a mono wet dry, with the effects going into the other cabinet using the Bella's effects return. And it sounded great. And then Rocco was using a Kemper. They both sounded great. You know, they had his Kemper rig was, you know, like a powered monitor, full range monitor on stage of some sort. It sounded really good, I must say, the way he had it dialed in, you know, and both their tones were cool. So it's all whatever you want to do these days, I think. Christopher says he's looking to buy an EVH Wolfgang. What are my thoughts on a made in Japan made compared to Wolfgang Special made in Indo? Oh, I don't know about guitars made in Indonesia, honestly. I mean, I'm sure they're great. I just don't know, you know, I know they do good stuff these days. I don't have a bearing on that, like a one way or another read. I think made in Japan is always fantastic, and I think the stuff that they're doing in Mexico these days is really good too. So I just don't know about that. I would have to try. You know, I know the factories in Indonesia, they're the big, I mean, the Ibanez makes a ton of stuff there. And EVH, obviously, there's a bunch of different, you know, and it's probably a lot of the same factories, you know, that are doing the stuff. I just don't have a handle on it these days on what, you know, I wouldn't be at all afraid of a one made in Japan, that's for sure. You know, they do great stuff. Fender Japan, you know, terrific. Let's see here. Stuart Smith's birthday is the same as mine? I didn't even know that. I played in a band with the guy, and I didn't realize that. I bet he doesn't know that mine's June 24th, too, and it's Jeff Beck's birthday. That's true. Yeah. Very interesting. Maybe I knew that in like a past life 10 years ago, and I've just forgotten that Stuart's birthday was the same as mine. I haven't seen Stuart in years, 6-7 years or something at least. But anyways, he's an amazing guitar player. Terrific. Yeah. Talking about Ty here, you guys are. John says Ty has done both. Dogman era was tubes. That's true. Ear Candy was tubes. Dogman was tubes, but he switched back to solid state orange amps. Yeah, I remember I interviewed Ty on the show here, and he was talking about how when he was speaking with Orange, they sent him some stuff that he wasn't like super into, you know, just it wasn't his thing. And then they said, well, we got one more thing. We got the solid state amp. It's kind of cheaper, but, you know, and he said, solid state, send me that. And he's ended up using it. It's his rig for touring for years now. So he obviously likes it, which makes me want to try it. But I just think it's interesting. Lawrence says, are you saying the sounds you make with Wet Dry Wet cover a wider frequency spectrum that might fight with other sources in the band? Kind of. Yeah, sort of. That's what I'm saying, and not just a frequency spectrum, but where you sit in the stereo mix, right? Like having a more pinpointed mono sound in a big band can be better than having a massive stereo sound that can tend to. Where does the sound person place you when there's another guitar player, when there's two keyboard players? And you've got this great big stereo guitar sound going on with delays and stuff. It's just like, imagine doing that in a mix in the studio. It's like you wouldn't, You'd be, well, I need to find the place for everything in this mix. And a mono pinpointed sound is going to sit better in a mix. A mono, more mid-rangey, smaller, like the Eagles. When we think about, the sound of that band, especially live, like if there's acoustic guitars going on and there's maybe some keys or piano, like where do you sit in that? And so having like a Tweed Deluxe or something was like a way to, with a almost kind of gnarly sound, sat the guitars in the mix in a nice way. Mono sounds, So you can kind of do that easier, I think, in a live setting. If you want to stick to stereo, great. But, just two mics on two cabs or on two amps. And, if I always said if I did the Don Henley gig again, I might use something like the Hedgehog, It's here somewhere. Where's my Hedgehog? It's down there behind this cab. Like a more Fender, with a mid-rangey Dumbley kind of drive would be maybe actually more appropriate. Than what I was doing when I was playing with Don, which was PT100s, a bit more, got the Fendery clean for sure, which was great. But when it came to the drive sounds, like we just did one of these nights with Classic Rock Show actually, and I was using a Bella, and that worked great. The Bella was kind of the right thing. When I think about when I see Felder. Doesn't he use deluxe reverbs, I think, which would be perfect, like a little deluxe or two deluxe reverbs, maybe in stereo, if you want a little bigger sound, a little louder. It's a more, for that style of music, it's a better thing. So it just depends on what you're doing. Sorry, I'm getting long-winded about this. I don't want to get boring. What speakers did Jake use? I think he used JBLs. Or no, sorry, EV. Excuse me, 12Ls, I think. That's what I always heard, that he used EVs. I'm not 100% sure if that was like all the records or what, but I think it was JCM 800s with an SD1 in front, maybe, and EVs, kind of unique, when we're talking about Bark at the Moon, and I don't, the next record, The Ultimate Sin. I'm not 100% sure, but some cool stuff on that, some cool guitar sounds. I forgot how many good, because I went and listened, and I in my track I tried to do a little amalgamation kind of the little Bark at the Moon thrown in at the end, but a little more rock and roll rebel vibe. I remember those tunes; they were cool. Like I'd forgotten some of the songs on that Aussie record, and I went and listened to it. And pretty cool. Favorite mic for live situations? I tend to kind of like large diaphragm condensers if I'm miking, live, that tends to work good, I find. I sort of let the sound people just do what they want these days. On my Bella on Classic Rock Show, they had one of those EV, a 906, I think, or something recently. If I'm doing it, it's going to be in my in-ears. I might be a little more apt to request something. I always like 4050s too. Great live mic. 4050s sound terrific live. So we'll see what's going on with tour coming up, because I think I'm just going to use mics on this upcoming tour. Just do the two cabs and let the sound people mic it how they want. But sometimes I request, like, do you guys have a 4050 or two? Sometimes it might be a lot to ask for a live show. They have two 4050s. They're like $700 or $800 microphones. I've got one. Maybe I could be like, hey, I'll bring mine, and because that'd be great. Two 4050s, I think, would be terrific for. They handle a lot of level. They're robust. They sound really good. That's always been a favorite. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Is the Soyuz better than R121, says Lauren? Well, it's totally different. You could actually hear it in the test that I did at Sweetwater recently with both of them in the exact same position. So the 121 is all fat and lows and not a lot of clarity, but blends great. But you kind of need to blend it, in my opinion, with another mic. Unless you're going for a dark mellow thing and you place it further back, that can sound really great. Like a 121 is just such a different mic. You know, I really like them 2 or 3, 4, 5 feet back from the amp. You know, 3 feet maybe, 2 feet from a combo. You know, maybe that far. and then of course the figure 8, right? So they're picking up the back. So if you're in a nice sounding room and you're doing a kind of a guitar track that you want a little bit of room and air in, you want it to sound very natural, that's a great, you know, and maybe cleaner on the clean side of things. That's a great use for a 121 to me. Or of course the classic, if you're up close on the cab and you blend it with a 57 for metal or whatever, it can be great, you know. But they're a little slow, I find, actually. That's the only thing. Like they're not very articulate. So you're getting all the warmth out of that, and you need the articulation from the other mic. The Soyuz mic is the effect of a large diaphragm condenser. I mean, it's not unlike a FET 47 or something, or U87, or they're quicker, very full range, lots of top end for sure, and placed just right. They can be great on their own. And you know, when I think of the sound of Back in Black, or that's like U87s and 67s and stuff, I think that's supposedly what they used. And just great rock guitar sounds that aren't Van Halen, you know. It's like the other way to do a Marshall was the condensers. And I know like Michael Wagner, who did a lot of rock and metal records and stuff, he was a big fan of condensers and blend mics, but he always had a condenser on the kind of at an angle on the, you know, like if this was a grill cloth, he'd put the condenser up and then angle it like this. You know, so maybe it wasn't getting direct into the sound of the speaker, but he'd put it at a bit of an angle. You could see lots of videos where it was like that. So I am enjoying the Soyuz as a one mic only kind of thing. I mean, you heard it largely. The Jake video, when I'm playing the sound that I said sounded like the train from King's X, the kind of the main distorted sound in that video, that's mostly the Soyuz on its own. And it's got kind of a, you know, it's got cut, but it's warm and just sounds great. And it just paired with the amp beautifully and sounded really good, I thought. So, yeah. Yeah, Christopher, thanks for the super chat there. I got that one already, I think. I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you want the Surefire back, go for the Japan-made one. I just would, but I could be. What do you guys think? Does anybody out there have one of the... Nerd Halen. Okay. Here's a good resource because he's got all those guitars. Go for the made in Japan. Yeah, I've got an old USA Wolfgang. You know, like 2009 made, and that's my only Wolfgang. I've seen a special. Dave Friedman has a special that's really nice. It's very similar to my guitar, but with the flat top. It's black, and that guitar I think is made in Japan. I think it's very nice, but those are older, you know. It's like things have moved around and things have changed and stuff as far as where they're produced, and even the neck shapes and the fret sizes and stuff are all different now. Yeah. Okay. What else? Lauren says, I just wish the Acoustasonic wasn't so expensive. I think there's a cheaper made version now, though, isn't there? I think there's a... sorry, I'm way back in the chat, aren't I? I should move down a little bit, but let me take a look here. I think they make different versions of it now that are... Well, here's one used on Reverb, a Telly for $7.99. So you can get that. See, I see a Telly, black Telly at Guitar Center for $11.99. So those are made, and here I'm seeing them used all day long for like $7.99, $8.99 Guitar Center. So you can get them for, you know, you can get the ones that were $2,000 now for used for pretty cheap. Bunch of them. Tellys, I see. You can definitely score one at this point for under $1,000 easily. Yep. Okay. Help with the purchase of a new cup, says Trevor. Thank you, sir. This is just a You know, got it from the local snobby coffee shop this morning. It's almost gone, which is very sad. It's 1:23. I got to go another half an hour or so. How am I going to keep going without more coffee? What do you think about the Soldano SLO? I love the SLO. Personally, I think it's great. I think it's a great amp to pair with others in a double of a heavy guitar. You know, if you use an old Marshall or PT100, you know, on one side and then the SLO on the other, it's great. It sounds really big when you do that. I'm not too crazy about the clean channel, but it's just a little bit anemic or something to me. I wish, you know, it had a regular kind of Fender clean. It'd be great, I think. But it can sound really good on the crunch setting, and Dave Friedman actually modded mine a little bit. He does a little SLO mod to the crunch channel that makes it a little more like just like a grade 800, like an 800 but better, optimized without the wool, and it's got a little more gain and just sounds cool. So I have that on the channel 1 of mine. It's really nice. So I'm a fan. I mean, I think they're terrific. Generally speaking, when I go, maybe the SLO would be cool for this part, for a double or something when I'm recording, I turn it on, I dial it up, I'm like, yeah, that was the right choice. That's the way I usually feel. It's a different sound than the full-on Marshall-y thing. It's a little more like full range. I call it big grain distortion, you know, as opposed to the Marshall-y thing, which is a little more upper mid poke, centered in the upper mids, a little less low end girth or low mid girth. You know, that's the Marshall-y thing. Somehow smoother in the top, though. You know, a little more, it's just centered in the upper mids, but then with a little smoother top end. And then the SLO has kind of a bigger grain, like it's a little more, I don't want to say fuzzy, but it's got you know what I'm talking about? It's got a little rasp in the top end, but I don't mind that. It's part of the sound of the amp. And then the low mids are real full, and it's just real powerful coming at you. So that particular thing that they do, I think, is a great thing. You know? Some people might love it or hate it or whatever, but I always see it as just different colors and way to use, you know, amps to get you where you need to go in the grand scheme of things. Warren Hewitt loves the Acoustasonic, something to have in reach to jam at any time. Yeah, I agree. And I did, Lauren, I did keep mine at home for quite a while. I don't have one there right now, but it is a nice thing. It's loud enough to just kind of sit on the house, or sit on the couch in the house, excuse me, and pick it up and just sort of jam on the couch. And it's not big and bulky like you can put it on a stand in your house. And I had the Jazzmaster one at home like that for a while. And yeah, I agree. That's nice for that. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Do the SD3000 EVH do EVH as pitch shifting? No. Although you can do, and I did this in one of my presets on the EVH, a chorus. So in a pinch, it kind of works. It's not the same sound, but I used one of the delay, because there's 2 delay engines in the SD3000 EVH. So I thought, why don't I try making a chorus with one, a light chorus, and then try doing delay with the other one. And so that's one of my presets. It's in there. If you try it, I think it sounds really good. You can hear it in the video that I did. So that's kind of that sound in a pinch, you know, but it's not exactly the same because the Eventide is a certain thing, you know. So if you want the full meal deal, you kind of got to do the parallel rig and have the at least an H90 or something in the SD3000 EVH, and then you can do that with a parallel mixer and get the full. There's no free lunch, you know. Yeah. I feel like the EVH brand has changed over the last 2 years. Like they're pushing new twists on the original Eddie ideas. Well, you know, now you've got the brand essentially. Matt and Wolf. Matt, who is Ed's, sort of best friend and confidant, business partner for many years, and then Wolf are at the helm now, and that's going to change the way that things get done, and the type of projects that they can focus on, and that kind of thing. I feel like they were already going in that direction a little bit, even before Ed passed away. You know, you saw things like the 5150. Sort of solid color guitars, and more things coming out that were sort of, little bit more wide ranging than just like Ed's guitars, or, based off the old finishes and stuff that he had. And so, I love it. I think it's great. I think, I always try, I know Matt, I mean, we're friends, and I know Wolf a bit too and stuff like that, but I'm always, saying that, my one recommendation to them is that they do the amp, the Marshall. And so who knows, maybe someday, but, I think it's kind of a no-brainer to do it. If it was me, I would do the exact same thing that they did with the guitars, which is a limited, handmade, exact replica of the 12301 Marshall, the 68 Super Lead, with all the, the little tear in the front and the no logo and all that. You could do it because you don't even got to put a logo on it. So his amp didn't have a logo, so it doesn't say, you could do an EVH version of it with no logo, and no, obviously you can't put Marshall on the front of it because it didn't have Marshall on the front of it. So you could do a really, really accurate one and call them, 123011, 123012, and maybe do a run of 100 or do a run of 50 or something that are probably obscenely expensive and exact hand-wired, recreations of that amplifier. That's a no-brainer to me. I know, but there's probably about 100 people in this chat right now that would get one if they could. Let alone, right? So, and then come out with I would do the exact same thing, where I would then come out with a more consumer sort of version of it, that's, maybe PC board but with the right circuit and just a great Plexi, basically, and maybe put a post-phase master on it or something to make it, a little more tameable for folks. But and there it is, and folks that want it, and if they don't, they don't. But that's something that I would love to see them do. So I think it's, that's my only. They do great stuff, I think that's just a little bit of a missed opportunity at this point. That's just my opinion, though. I think it'd be a nice tip of the hat, and a great product. But anyways, Nerd Halen says most of the Friedman amps will get you there. I think you're talking about that tone. Even the BEOD is an affordable option. I say it's the best early VH tones in a pedal. Yeah, the BEOD is great for modded or, slightly higher gain, terrific in a pedal in front of a clean amp. Yeah. Any thoughts on DI or cab sims? Wondering if the Friedman Mic No-Mo is the king. That's a good option. I tend to, I like it a lot. I like a lot of things that Dave does, obviously. I really like, and I think it's underrated, the, what am I thinking of? The Sir Ace, if you want an analog cab sim, is terrific. And I actually helped design that a little bit, so of course I'm going to say that. But no, I did. I helped tune in the curve along with Kevin Sir, and it's a really underrated analog cab sim. It basically does a greenback kind of thing, and there's some tunable low, high, kind of simple EQ curve stuff on there, and it's really works great. Either coming off the tap off a speaker, or you can use it with a line in coming out of a preamp or something, and it's very nice. So check that out too. It's called the Ace, Sir Ace Analog Cab Emulator. Whoa, I'm kind of far down, or far back in the chat, so I better move down. Yeah, okay. You guys we're talking about the Van Halen reverbs there in the chat and stuff that we were talking about ages ago. So, all right. Love the small JTM. No master will be an issue. It's got a low power mode that works pretty well. It'll drop to 3 or 4 dB or something like that at least. You can always have a master put in too. Just mod it with a post phase, if you really need one. But anything similar with a master, a 20-watt Plexi with a master. Germino might have something, or just not sure. I know of stuff that's coming that isn't around yet, but will be. I know of a couple things actually that are coming. So I just can't think of anything. But if you got one now, if you found one, you could easily have somebody mod with a nice post-phase inverter master on the back in one of the speaker jacks or something, and you wouldn't even need to really. You can be totally reversible and not that expensive to install probably. So consider that option. Don't if you're like, this is the amp for me, but it doesn't have a master, I should get something else. Just get one and put one in it. I think Randy's tone improved greatly from Blizzard to Diary. I would agree with that. I liked the overall sound of Diary of a Madman better as a record. I did. Yeah. Not just the guitar, like everything. Do you have any crazy or creepy stories from touring that you could share? I mean, yeah, things come to mind instantly, but I don't know if I should share them. Crazy or creepy. All right, I'll tell you one really quick. I remember this time, like driving. It was like, we got this festival we got to do in D.C. and the gig before was it was when I was with the band Blink of the Star. The gig before was in Boston. It's pretty far from Boston to D.C. That's a heck of a drive. So not impossible, but it's far. So we did the gig in Boston, and then we had to get up super early to drive because our slot was at like 2 or 3 p.m. And so we drove all this way the next morning after this Boston gig and got very little sleep and stuff. We're driving. We get all the way to this gig in D.C. that's supposedly this great festival that we were going to play. And we get there and set up, and we do our set, and it's 3, 4 in the afternoon or whenever it was. And I just remember that it was like scattered people in a park watching us, And in front of the stage, there was a dude. I don't know why, but there was a couch that had been brought and put right in front of the stage. And this guy was sitting on the couch, and he had his lady with him. And she was sitting facing away from the band, kind of straddling him on the couch. And he was like looking over her shoulder, kind of watching the band, and she was kind of making out with him the whole time that we were playing on this couch. And there was like maybe all told, there was probably a couple hundred people like spread throughout a park. I was like, we drove all the way here this morning for this. This is awesome. But I do remember it. It was 21, 22 years ago, 23 years ago maybe, and I remember it just like it was yesterday. So those are the ones that I guess, you get the stories to tell when you get a question like that. It was kind of not crazy, but it was a little creepy, and it was a little disturbing. I don't know why they did the couch and why they thought that was appropriate show. But anyways, I've used a laptop with plugins live. No, never. Kind of terrified of that, actually. I mean, something about, you'll forget to turn off your notifications and it'll go some bing or, sound or whatever. When you get an email, will come through the PA super loud. I like using a dedicated modeler, which is still basically a computer, but, a little more dedicated. 1984 was my introduction to VH. Van Halen holds a special place for me. Also, the girl with the largest boobs in high school gave the album to me because she found God. She found God, and you found Van Halen. That's awesome. Love that. That's a great story. My knees hurt. Love it. Oh, man. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. I don't know. With a different tone makes me sad. Yeah, I don't know. It has to be the the original tone for sure, or Flying High Again, or it's just cool. The triples and all that stuff. Pete, gonna miss the tones of Robbie Robertson. That's right, we lost Robbie Robertson this week. He was an amazing cat, and it's a big loss. For Canadian musicians, he was a totally unique, the band, and it's a big loss for the indigenous music community. He was I liked the band. Unique character. So it's funny. I came to a lot of Canadian, Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and stuff like later, you know, after I had already gotten into music for years and years and years and stuff. And then it took me a while to realize, or Burton Cummings, or like these different folks that I feel like, Randy Bachman, that had a big effect on the Canadian music scene. And I didn't really realize it till later, you know, but I have an appreciation of them now. Yeah. Bent Tom says the opening pick slide on the guitar neck on the intro to Hot for Teacher is the quintessential pick slide. Eddie was great with pick slides, that's for sure. Okay. What else we got here? Love Andy Timmons. Yeah, absolutely. He's a man. He was unbelievable this week. Like just absolutely on fire. You know, he did a night, and then Mike Landau did the night before. So imagine following Mike. You know, but and you know, Mike's absolutely one of my favorite guitar players. I didn't see Mike play, but I heard he was amazing this week. And then Andy, to his credit, they got a standing ovation at the end. You know, I don't think I've ever seen that at the Baked Potato. Everybody stood up and was just like, man, like it was a heck of a set. He had a real vibe going. The whole band had this great vibe going that was magic that night, where they were all really appreciative of one another's musicianship. You could just tell on stage. And it was the first time Andy had really played with those cats, too. So it was like, it was all new, and it was a really nice vibe. Yeah. Gary Husbands really is crazy being able to play with John McLaughlin, Alan Holdsworth. Yeah, and Jimmy, right? Jimmy Johnson, who's like that dude. See, we sat right behind his amp, and his bass sounded so. That was nice. We didn't have the greatest seats. We were kind of off in the corner, but it was great sitting right by Jimmy and just hearing the bass amp so clearly as well, because he's magic. Rocco, unfortunately, I didn't see him play all night because he had his back to us. So it was just listening kind of to a full range cabinet behind the cabinet. That's what I got of him, but you could tell he was unbelievable. So it was neat. But does Andy Timmons use this Andy Timmons signature JHS? He does. Yeah, actually, he's kind of a pedal guy, I think, these days mainly. Pedal. He had two AT mod Keeleys, his signature Keeley, which are kind of like a lighter overdrive, and then he had the JHS on his board as his main kind of dirty tone, I think. And I love that pedal. This is largely, I think, Governor based, and then became the Angry Charlie from JHS, and then they tweaked it a bit for the signature version that Andy has, and it sounded really good, man. Yeah. Okay. What else? Let's see. Just reading. Let's see. Lots of people recommending the Made in Japan version of the Wolfgang in the chat. Let's see. Recycled Rando says, stereo often introduces phase issues, especially when using choruses or flanges. Can be. As long as your guitar's panned, you know, you shouldn't have any trouble. If you pan everything center and it's meant to be wide, you know, it can be weird. Yeah, it can be a little like canceling out or strange. But as long as this is anytime you incorporate any kind of stereo, it's like another layer of explaining what to do to the front of house and in the monitors and stuff, and you just got to be willing to do that. So when you do wet, it adds yet one more layer, right, with the three signals, dry signal, and two mics, and it can just become a bit of an issue. So. What's on Pete's guest list as of late? Man, I'm fine right now, to be honest. There's nothing in particular that I'm lusting after. Yeah, like there's so much stuff now that I feel like I haven't had enough time to explore what's already out there, you know? I'm doing a video right now for an Empress pedal, which is called the Heavy Menace. It's sitting right here on my desk, can't see it, but it's a small version of the Heavy. What a great sounding distortion. The original version of the Heavy was amazing. So I'll be putting that out tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. but really, really nice pedal. So much good stuff out now. Okay, let's see. I just opened up for Don Felder, says Chris. He was using the Deluxes. Yeah, I think he just kind of probably rents backline, or maybe he uses trucks a couple, but, you know, the Deluxe Reverb is an amp you can commonly get, and so if you're going to rent backline from somewhere and do, you know, they're good. They sound, you know, if you use the right pedals, get an AT overdrive or something, you know, Andy Timmons JHS into a couple Deluxe Reverbs, that'll be a good sound, you know, add a bit of verb and a delay or something, and God, my stomach is like growling so loudly, I bet it's coming through the microphone. It's insane. I think it's time for lunch. Yeah. What do you think about the James Tyler guitars made in Japan versus USA? USA's are crazy expensive. I haven't played one in particular, but I have no reservations about Japanese-made guitars. I mean, they do beautiful stuff over there, pretty much across the board. It's generally Fujijin, or there's a few different companies that tend to contract manufacture and make things for people, and I bet that's where the Tylers come from. I don't know 100% for sure about that, but I mean, you'll find Fujijin makes a lot of stuff for a lot of different companies, and yeah, in my experience, they're pretty damn meticulous. You know, just like, you know, Yamahas that are made there, or different guitars. It is really well made. Have you tried the Roswell mics? No, I haven't. I love that for guitar. K47 sounds like U47 and 67 style. Haven't tried those. But I love a good 47 or a good 67. Both the Fat 47 and the Tube. I used to have access to a Tube 47, an original, that was so good. It was. I mean, I wouldn't have stuck it in front of a guitar amp, but it was great on vocals, man. Distorted in a beautiful way. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to move down in the chat a little bit. I've got super chats here. I don't want to miss these. Just a fun question. Love the show. Thank you. If given the choice, would you rather have an erector set, a tub of Lincoln Logs, or a box of Legos? Man, I was a Lego guy, gotta say. So I'm going to go Legos on that. Thank you for the super chat. With your amp switcher, did you have a bunch of issues with 60 cycle hum? No. Like any kind of grounding and stuff, you shouldn't. If you've got a proper switcher, it shouldn't be any kind of, you know, I would think they would design it with proper isolation and stuff. I had no issues setting up you can see my amp Pete up there in the rack, and it's connected to 8 different amplifiers right now and 3 different cabinet choices, and I have no extra buzz anything, you know. The only thing I'll say about it is it's got a buffer in the front end, and you can overload that buffer if you use, say, a super loud clean boost or something, or a fuzz that's really brutal, and it's running into the front of the switcher. You can kick the buffer in the switcher, and you'll hear it actually crap out. So you just want to be careful to not do that, or just run if you for some, I don't know why you would be, but it's literally, you have to be like hitting like 20 dB of gain into it, and then it'll clip. I think there was one time where there was a pedal I was doing, and I heard it, because I'd heard it mentioned before that this was a phenomenon with that switcher. So, but that's going to be pretty rare that you boost anything that much into an amp. So, just something to be aware of. But I've had no problems with grounding or anything. Yeah. Okay. Just a fan thanking you, says Alicia, for your channel. Hey, thanks for being here, Alicia. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching the show and hanging out. Great to have you all here. We got 389 people online. Awesome to have y'all. All right. Let's see here. Love your show. Have you ever played through a Marshall Astoria? No, I just watched some of the videos and stuff. They sounded pretty cool. Seemed like they were maybe like a lower watt. They look real cool too. Attractive, but kind of like a cathode bias sort of sound. You know, trying to appeal to a different sort of crowd than maybe the traditional sort of more aggressive, bright Plexi thing. Almost more like their version of a Sir Badger or something. You know, a little warmer and like lower power, but that's just my impression. I haven't tried them in person. I've tried the Origin, only in modded form. Dave Friedman did a mod on an Origin. It sounded amazing. It sounded great. You can get those amps for quite cheap and then do the mod, and it's like you're probably in it for $500-600 used at that point, and it's great sound. There's Patrick Kelly with a super chat. Thank you, sir. What 112 cab would you recommend to use with my 67 Bassman? It's hard to find a 4-ohm cab. I bet it is, yeah. I mean, you're going to probably want to try and find a speaker that, probably like Warehouse or Eminence, somebody that does a 4-ohm Fendery kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I would probably, pick something from one of those companies and maybe, hit up a 4-ohm cab. So, you can do 2 8-ohms and just wire it for 4, right? You can do that, right? So do something from, like hit up either Mojo or what's the speaker? Oh, damn it, man. My mind is really not great today. It starts with an A. What's the company I'm thinking of? Here, I'll get it. The company I'm thinking of is Mojo Tone, of course. But the other one I'm thinking of starts with an A. What the heck's it called? Somebody help. You're probably saying it in the chat. I'm not looking. Sorry. I'm looking for what I'm thinking of right now. There's actually a company called Speaker Cabinets Direct. I've never seen that. V Boutique. God, there's all kinds of cabinets out there that I've never seen. Avatar. Thank you. Avatar speakers. So your two options are either Avatar or, like here's, let's take a look at the Avatar website and see what they got here. They got the full range of Fanes you can get from them, but I probably wouldn't go that way for this. Well, I could, but UK Fane. Let's see. Some guitar cabs. What else we got here? Speakers. They've got Eminence. So let's take a look at Eminence and see what you can get from them for the Swamp Thang. Isn't that one of their US style speakers? I think so, right? They sell for $139. So it's a 12-inch 8-ohm. So you could do 2 of those and wire it for 4, right? And thick and chunky tone with loads of sustain. Doesn't say it's really good. I thought this was like kind of their more Fender side. It says it's great for heavy players. Here's one called an A50 Alnico. That sounds interesting. 250-watt Alnicos. That could sound really good. 2 golds will sound great. 2 Celestion golds will sound absolutely lovely. Or Celestion cream, Alnico creams. That'd make a really nice cabinet. And just do like an open back, 212, and it would sound fantastic. I love those Alnico speakers for clean, You could go that route and it'll sound great. If you want a light cabinet, look at some of the Neo stuff. I don't. Jensen's got Neos too. That they're probably sort of more Fendery vibes. You could get a couple of Jensen Neos, probably be cool. Yeah. Okay. Moving down in the chat. Let's see. On the idea of EVH Marshall, sounds brilliant. I would definitely try to get one. Yeah, that's just my thing. I mean, like, they should make those amps, Nerd Halen says that's a great idea. It already exists. It does kind of already exist. If you're talking about the Eddie amp, it's true. I mean, there is. But, I'd sell my kid for that amp. We won't tell your kid. Yeah. If you could take a guitar lesson from anyone, who would it be? Oh, man, Mike Landau, probably. Yeah. Yeah, that would be my pick. Just to have him re-evaluate my whole thing. And then I'd go away for like 2 years. You wouldn't even see me. I'd disappear. My career would be over. But I'd come back sounding better. I love the idea of like Neil Peart when he went and took lessons from wasn't it Freddie Gruber, and he just totally tweaked his whole thing. They like used to dance because you got him into feeling it's a dance. It's like when you're playing drums, it's the space in between the notes, not just the note that you're hitting. It's the space in between and the way that the way that your body moves and stuff. I love that idea, and that he was willing to that kind of discipline that he was willing to go through to try and kind of reinvent the way that he played, and get somewhere else, even though he was like one of the most revered drummers in the world. That I have a great respect for that. So I love the idea of doing that on guitar, maybe. But heard anything about Friedman making a new Plexi? Well, I think he's talked about it. He's working on like a 50 watt that he's doing. That's like a usable one, but it's basically a Plexi. It's a vintage style, but it's got a couple of newer features that it should be a neat amp for sure. Yeah. No gain boosts or any of that stuff, just, yeah. Okay. Moving through the chat here. I'm going to stick around for another, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. Then I'm going to split. I started late, so love your review of the new Friedman. That thing's on fire. Yeah, thanks. I enjoyed it as well. It's there it is sitting right there. It's still sitting here. Yeah. Do you have a fave single coil? I use the V63 on my signature guitar, and I think they sound great. It's a terrific sounding pickup. It's what originally was the Landau Classic, and now it's just called the V63. When your HSS available? It's out now, man. There's stores that have them. I just heard there was one in New Mexico that just sold theirs, and I've put up a couple of. Here's actually the one that was in New Mexico, and they posted some really nice photos of it. It's the the silver model. So that sold already, I think yesterday. There was a garnet red one in Europe that sold right away. I've seen a couple other stores posting, so they're out now. You can find them, but they're going pretty quick. They tend to show up, and then I think within a day or two, people are picking them up. So which is awesome. But it's out there. Tech question: using volume pedal in an effects loop for lead solos, best pre or post the effects? I go pre because then you get the tails, right? So if you do post, you're going to cut off all your reverbs and stuff, or turn them down. That would be weird. So if you do it pre, and you just push it a little bit. I mean, you can either do a complete roll off and stop for silence, or you can just back down the send into the and then the reverbs and the effects still tail out. So yeah, long story short, if you do a volume pedal in a loop, best place to put it in my mind is first. So coming right out of the send of the amp, first thing that the send hits is a low impedance volume pedal, and then you go into your effects after that, back into the returns. Clapton is most overrated guitar player ever. I'm not a huge Eric guy, but when I hear him, I mean, he's brilliant. He plays with beautiful phrasing and kind of perfect, like Cream. When I think of Cream, it's ideal for the song. And we have to remember that nobody was really doing, like, he was out and people were aware of him before Hendrix. So nobody was doing that loud, turned up, bluesy, amazing, guitar playing before him. So I'm going to say he's not overrated because of that, because he was innovating. Nobody was turning up Marshalls and playing Gibsons like that. He was pre-Hendrix, Now Hendrix went and took it to a wild, place. Like that was different. But we got to give credit to Eric for turning it up and playing that music and doing the, as he, supercharged kind of blues. With, his vibrato is peerless, I think, and he had a beautiful thing going on that obviously turned on Eddie Van Halen, and so how can he be overrated? Because we got other folks that just thought he was the bee's knees, greatest thing since sliced bread, like Eddie Van Halen, So it's hard. It's maybe in retrospect, after all the guitar playing and stuff that's come later, it maybe, when you go back and listen, you got to go back. It's hard to imagine. Like, imagine if you'd never heard Hendrix and you'd never heard Eddie Van Halen, you'd never heard everything that came after, and then you heard Clapton, you know? And it's like all you'd heard up till that point was, you know, I guess Beatles and, you know, Stones were coming out, and that had its own thing. But then you heard the guitar solo like that with that sustain and that way he played, it'd be like, oh my God, who's that guitar player, you know? That's how it was, you know. He was the man, like, for, you know, Clapton is God. People used to write on the walls, and, you know, in London at the time and stuff, it was like he was doing something that nobody had heard. So that's my devil's advocate, you know. Bukovac says Mean Streets has the best pick slide. Oh, you big time for T King Time, the official T King Time? It must be voice text. The original VH pick slide into finger slide takes you to the edge. Yeah, that's the sound. Yeah, Mean Street. Mean Street's amazing, and the best sounding G chord ever recorded. F sharp, I guess, technically, but since he was tuned down a half step, but you know, I talked about that a lot, but I've rewound and listened to that a million times. Yeah, that's one of the ones where you have to tune the B string flat on Mean Street in order to get that consonant sound between the D, the G, and the B. So you tune it flat, and it's part of the magic of that when he hits those three strings, and it's got that consonant tuning, and it makes the Marshall collapse and do the vowel sound. It's amazing sounding. Love it. Yeah. So it's so cool. So much attitude. Anyone know if the Friedman little sister could pull off VH with the right boost in front? I'd say that overall the Pink Taco would be the more Van Halen out of the box thing, but it's all in your fingers and the way you know, it's, I don't know about boosting it. I mean, that wouldn't be really, there's probably enough gain in the little sister actually for Van Halen, truth be told, if you just hit it with some volume, or turn it up to a loud volume. But, oh, Patrick says I missed your super chat. Patrick, can you ask again? I'm sorry if I missed it, or maybe I've gotten it already and it just took me a while to get to. But ask one more time, and we'll hit it here at the bottom of the chat. I'm going to head down to the bottom here pretty quick. What kind of pizza did you and Dave have last week? Are you talking about... it wasn't with Dave, but I went to Sir's and had pizza. Sir makes amazing pizza. He's got a wood-fired pizza oven, and he's always into trying out different dough and stuff. And he made me a gluten-free pizza that was absolutely out of this world. Incredible. Yeah. There's some super chats there. Sorry, guys. My rig was caught in a storm surge's rain and hail that blew the tent away. Any advice on drying out and minimizing damage? You just got to let it sit for a really, really long time, I think, and then probably have a tech go through it. It's kind of amazing how things can still work and it won't be a problem, but I would definitely have a tech look at it. You know, power it up slow maybe on a Variac or something and just make sure that it's, you know, and it's just got to, it's got to be completely dried out and stuff, and then you might be fine. You know, somebody like Friedman, you know, it might be worth the sending him if it's an amp or just to look at it and make sure, you know. If you could land your dream gig, who would you want to play with? You know, I always say it's like Chris Cornell was the I just want to play with that guy again, which is sad, you know, to say, but that was really, you know, that's kind of the way I feel about it. And I was like, who would I even play with now? And the thing that I did this week, to be honest, I never thought would happen in a million years, and it was so friggin' cool that if it happens, I'm just going to be like, I can't believe this is happening. And it was just a recording project, so I can't tell you what it is yet. Far from it, but if it goes and it's actually a thing, I just can't even believe that it'll be a thing where I'm on a, you know, I don't even want to talk about it anymore because it's like it's too. But even just to have done it and just to do it's like the coolest thing. So this is just this session I did this week where I got to play on something that's just like, are you kidding me right now? It was like the coolest thing ever. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we'll see. One that I had never sort of imagined in a million years, and yet there it was, like landed on my lap. And yeah, it's the coolest. So we'll see. So talk to me in a month or two, and I'll let you know if it actually goes. You know. Super chat there from Tom. Hey man, rookie question, but how to use pedals, delay, comp, loop with the Acoustasonic? You don't want to go straight in like an electric. Well, if you're running right into a PA or something, yeah, you can just run everything after it. You know, so I would run the compressor first. A looper, I would probably run it. Where you run a looper, you have to consider whether you want like any kind of delays, or like you have to consider whether you want effects on your loops. So like many times, like people will use a looper for rhythm, and then they'll want to take a solo afterwards and play with delay or reverb or something, right? And yeah, and the loop is kind of dry. So in that case, you would run the looper. You'd go comp, loop, delay, because then you'll play your rhythm part and it'll be dry, and then you'll add delay to your solo or something. You could add a boost too, and boost on top of it, or use the different, the pickup sounds for boost. Does that make sense? So, yeah. So hopefully that adds up and makes sense. So just consider whether or not, because sometimes you might have a sound going with some reverb or chorus or something. Maybe you want that in the loop, but you might want a dry sound loop. So just to put your looper appropriately before or after the effects. Hopefully that I'm explaining that correctly. And then go straight into your PA or DI or whatever, into the PA or recorder. Yep. Well, that's interesting. Robbie Robertson had Clapton and Steve Winwood lined up to make a new album. Really? That's incredible. Well, maybe those guys should get together and do a tribute to Robbie now, That would be nice. This is true. Lawrence says you can run your basement into an 8-ohm cab. Doesn't hurt if the speaker's higher ohmage. I mean, the only thing I find is that you get a little less headroom. It is slightly different sound. It might be a little brighter, a little less headroom. But yeah, you can do it safely, So that's one thing to consider. Talking about the basement speaker. Sorry, I burped. How rude. Way back in the chat, as always, I get stuck. But that's just there's a lot of folks here, and I can't get everything in. It just is what it is. Have you tried the Fractal stuff? Did you like it? I've used Fractal over the years. I've made presets for them and done multiple different videos for them, for their products, and I think they make terrific stuff. I think it's an ecosystem. They tend to be it's sort of a style. They tend to be fairly complicated and deep, but I've always said the effects and the quality and stuff is very, very high. And if you're the kind of player that likes to get in and really tweak things, that could be just the thing for you. Their editors are great. Man, I mean, people use them. Steve Vai uses them just as an effects unit, right? In his effects loops, you can use them like that too. And the quality of the effects, the pitch and the detune and the reverb and the delay and everything is very, very high. I've found that when I spend time with Fractal, sometimes you spend time with effects and you tweak and you tweak and you tweak and you can't seem to get it any better, or it gets frustrating. With Fractal, actually, the more time I spend on it, which is part of the rabbit hole, but the more time you spend, the cooler it tends to get. So I'm like, okay, I've spent about half an hour getting this rotary sound just right. Let me put a little more time into it. And then all of a sudden I'll find I've spent like an hour, and it's like, but it got so much cooler actually than where I had it by just me playing with some of the different parameters. And so there's a lot of positive things, And at this point they've got a loyal following of users, and it's hard to argue with them. They've become there's a major player. So there's a lot of good things about them. I say they're the modelers for folks that really need a lot of versatility and don't mind tweaking. If you're a plug and play kind of person, maybe you go a different way, because they're not so plug and play. And I'm sure they would tell you that too, But I've got nothing bad to say. It's a deep unit. There's been a lot of thought put into them, And they obviously put a lot of effort and time into doing their software revisions and coming up with new stuff all the time. And so we got to hand it to Fractal, 100%. I know plenty of people that use them on the road. I was just thinking about Max Bernstein, for instance. He's an Axe FX guy. He plays with Taylor Swift. Just got a PT guitar as well. He got the new standard. And in the sparkly gray, the dark finish. Anyways, there's my friend Peter Evans with the super chat. Thank you, man. Super Sunday show. Thank you. Checking on videos this week. So this week, the Empress Menace is the one that will be coming. Also, probably that Driftwood amp. I will probably try and knock that out, get that done this week. Some other stuff. There's another amp coming to Black Star. I got to get this Motherload video done. I'm doing a video for the Brig from Strymon. That's got to happen. So that's kind of the stuff. Interstellar Audio Designs, they make some fuzzes and a Klon recreation that's really good sounding. It's like one of the best Klons I've tried. I'm going to do a video for them, I do believe. The Bigsby pedal, all this stuff is coming. Yes. You'll see, though, first this Empress Heavy as well as the Driftwood, I think. That'll probably be the next two that I knock out and get them done. One more super chat there from, I gotta go soon. I'm almost 2 hours and 15 minutes in. It's definitely time to go. I have Mesa single Recto 50, and I want to get a similar wattage amp for stereo. I was thinking either Vox AC30 or some kind of Marshall to tighten up the gain. I don't think it's going to tighten up the gain per se. Oh, I see. So you want to run into two. So if you... It depends how you want to do stereo. If you're splitting into the fronts of both amps, that's one way to go, right? And then adding a Marshall that's tight, you'd have them panned out, and you could have a tight, or maybe not even panned out, maybe just done in mono. Well, you said stereo, so you'll probably pan them. But yeah, if you do the gain channel on one, you're splitting into two, and yeah, sure, okay, yeah, a tighter gain sound, I guess so. You're still going to always have that Mesa, kind of that thicker thing, though, on the one side, so, any other suggestions? AC30 is a very different, you're talking about two very different things. I mean, the AC30, I don't know if I would pair, maybe it'd be the greatest sound ever, but an AC30 with a Rectoverb 50, maybe. It's, the AC30 is that chimey, cleaner, a little more rootsy thing. And when it does get dirty, it's not necessarily going to be tight. It's not super loose, but it's a vintage thing. A Marshall of some sort, like a combo. Well, you didn't even say a combo necessarily. I mean, you could get a 50-watt head and a 212 or something, I guess, and pair them. But other suggestions? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I need to know more what kind of sound you want, If you want tight and you want gain, I guess I would say, you can do anything from my PT's pretty tight. You want a similar wattage, so I don't have anything right now. You go to 15 and 100, but it's got a great master. You could do a PT 100, have a real versatile thing. If we're talking about 50-watt amps, maybe the EVH, the EVH 50 combo, if you want it, that would probably be if you want a high gain, kind of tighter, on the blue channel, the gain cranked up, they're really quite tight. I think that could be another one to look at. One of the 50-watt heads, I'd probably go one of the 50-watt 6L6 jobbies and see if you like that. If you were doing a Marshall, maybe a modded Origin 50, might be cool. If you had Friedman mod it and do kind of a tight BE style thing, that could be cool. Or a vintage, like an 800 combo, maybe with a little bit of modding going on to that'd probably sound great, actually. Like an 800 combo that's tweaked, tighten it up a little bit and gain it up a little bit. You can do that so easy with a couple simple mods, and bring it close to sort of the way this thing sounds, actually, this Jake amp. That paired with a Recto, probably a real cool sound, actually, in stereo. Cool rock tone. Probably get close to like the Tool thing if you were doing that. Yeah. Okay. Just gonna make sure I got all the super chats that I think I did. If there's one that I missed, I'm really sorry. I don't. Somebody mentioned that I missed one a little while ago, but I think I got it. Ian mentions that's right. Even after decades of using a JMP1, Dave Murray's using Axe-Fx in his library. Yeah, they finally switched to, they were using the Marshalls forever, the preamps, and then they changed. With Paul McCartney's band, no, I don't have anything to do with Paul McCartney's band, other than I'm good friends with Brian Ray and Rusty as well, and I know those guys, but no, I didn't do anything with Paul McCartney. Malmsteen, no. I love this. Everybody taking a guess. Must be a Beatle. Wasn't a Beatle. EVH tribute. No. What's fun about it is it got to be all me. I got to do my thing, and yet it's like, really? Are you kidding me right now? It was the coolest. But anyways, we'll see. Maybe I'll know in a week or two, or maybe I'll know in a month or two, or maybe it'll never happen. But anyways, it was a heck of a lot of fun. More on that soon. Thanks everybody for being here. Please donate to the cause if you can to Hawaii. I sent him some cash this week and stuff, and there's lots of info on that online where you can go. I just feel terrible about that. We already talked about that. We won't end on that note other than to just say wishing all those people all the best, because of what a terrible tragedy. And who knows, maybe we'll see something come together concert-wise. I can't imagine that it wouldn't, right? You just know something's got to come together and bring people together and stuff to help those folks out. They need our help. Everybody, just appreciate you so much. Thanks for all your super chats, and I'll try and get Tim here next week. I got to get on that and organize it and make it happen. And because we're doing just a little thing together, a little project together for him. And so we'll tell you more about that when he's on. So maybe next week I'll put up a watch page early if I can put that together. All right, everybody, have a terrific week, and everybody take care. Be nice to one another. Love you all. See ya.